We're live on the platforms that we're live on, and the platforms we're about to be live on. As you guys know, there is a bit of delay as the producers of the show, me, have to click the other platforms as they become live, which is what I'm waiting to do now. There we go. The red button became clickable. And now all the platforms that we're live on, we are now officially live on. Stargate, AI Sham, Sexy Productivity, and Professor Maddow. This is a propaganda report. I am Brad Binkley. It's officially the fourth day of Donald John Trump's presidency, and you guys might be surprised to hear this, but he has yet to turn the 1,500 pardoned J6ers into a paramilitary force that will run the death camps that he's going to put all the people he rounds up into, despite what Rachel Maddow has promised us he would do. Good morning, Quest. And I think that's important. We're measuring the promises that Trump fulfills like a checklist. We should also measure, like a checklist, what the media promises us that he will do. I think that's fair, because they tell their audience with certainty that things are going to happen. And in telling their audience these things, it shapes their audience's perception of reality, which they base their decisions in their life on. They do this or they don't do that because of what Rachel Maddow tells them. So it's only fair that we also keep a checklist of whether or not the things the penis neck Maddows of the world tells us are going to happen actually happen. Obviously, no one bats 1,000, but I just think for the media, this stuff has really gone unmeasured in an official capacity. And ironically, they seem to be the ones who are measuring what Trump or other politicians do, which that in and of itself seems a bit corrupt. But of course, everything's corrupt. Everything's corrupt. It's not like a dark point of view. That's an honest point of view that I think most people listen to this show probably share. It's actually freeing to me, honestly. When you grow up and you live in a world where you think that things aren't corrupt, then you see people who you should never trust as trustworthy. And you see barriers that these people you should never trust, that they impose upon you as limiting to you. Once you discover that these people who aren't trustworthy, but are just confident psychopaths, are full of shit, then you also see that the barriers that they have put upon you are also an illusion, and that you can rise above them and accomplish things that they intended for you to never realize that you could accomplish. Good morning again, Quest. 8:45 a.m. on the East Coast. In the South, where we're covered in snow down here. I'm not covered in snow. I'm in North Georgia, too, which is really strange. Atlanta's covered in snow. North Georgia, we got nothing up here. Usually it's the other way around. Every time it snows down here, which has been twice now in like 10 days, you look at the local news, the traffic reports, and you see nothing but cars sliding sideways down I-85. Every time. Just a bunch of cars sideways sliding, like they completely forgot that the last time we had snow, everybody did the same thing. Everybody says, you know what, I can do it. I know I've never really driven in snow in my life or ice, but I can handle it. I got to get to work. And they go on the highway with their Corollas, their tiny cars, maybe sometimes trucks, and their bald-ass tires, and literally zero knowledge of how driving in icy, snowy conditions work. It's like they think they've been living in Alaska their whole life. Those people are no bad. I get it. I figure it out. And then they get on the highway, and then for 15 miles, they're sliding sideways, spinning around, playing bumper cars with all the other idiots doing the same thing. And then Chipper Jones, the former Major League Baseball player for the Braves, has to get on his, what is it that he has? He's got a, what is that thing? He's got like I can't remember what it's called, but he's got one of those utility things that country people have that have the tires and that can handle this type of thing, prepper type shit. And he goes and saves everybody. They're calling in. I can't make it to work. I've been sliding down 75 north for 15 minutes. My daughter would love it. It'd be a blast if my kids were in the car with me, because it'd be like we were at the carnival. But they're not, so I'm just swearing at all the other jackasses who all should have also stayed home. And all the schools closed, too. There's been no school in Georgia for the entire week. Even here where there's no snow where I am. I mean, it's very cold outside. And the grass feels like it's icy when you step on it, but there's no snow. The roads are perfectly fine. It's just cold. And yet all of school has been canceled all week. They never did that when I was in school. You had to see snow on the ground to get that cancellation. Couldn't just be too cold. Couldn't just have to worry about the pipes freezing in the school and bursting, which is another thing that happens down here. Because we have no idea how to handle frigid conditions. It's like it's 12 degrees. What do I need to drip my pipe? What do I do with my pipes? How long do I drip them? If I stop dripping them for too long, are they going to explode? Is my house going to explode and catch fire, leaving all of us outside in the frigid cold to die? Is that like, people freak out about that? And they're like, I better drive downtown and see if I can find the answer. Then they, like I said, they go spin around the 400 overpass until, unfortunately, some of them just fly over, because that's a very dangerous place to be when you don't know what you're doing in this icy conditions, is on an overpass looking down on all the other cars who don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't like driving on those overpasses. Like, always, especially if there's water underneath, I crack my window a little bit. What if this thing collapses? Because at some point, the overpass is going to collapse. It might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not be 100 years from now, but at some point, somebody's going to be on one of these overpasses, all these cars below, maybe an ocean below, depending on where they are, and it's going to collapse, and all of the cars are going to go with it. And if there's water beneath it, those that have their window cracked will be happy they cracked it. They can pry it down, they can get out, and they swim to safety. There's no water beneath, though, like in Atlanta. Well, that's an unfortunate outcome, is all I'm saying. That is actually what I think about every time I am on an overpass. I'm not kidding. It's that scenario. Those people are just like driving, and I'm just like, oh my God. Somebody's going to die on this thing. Is it going to be me right now? Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. That tip is very kind of you. Enlarging this here so I can see the comments down here. Good morning, Greg. What's up, Mitchell? Good morning. Quest says gonna warm up from 15 to 29 up there in Brooklyn. You're probably used to it up there in Brooklyn. It's just crazy. It's so... We think we know how to handle experiences and situations that we actually have no experience with. We got to learn somehow, right? But I think that that's demonstrated especially when it snows in the South. There's not a person in the state of Georgia that has chains to put on their tires. Not one person like, what? Chains? No, I like my tires as slick as possible, and I want bare bones on the oil. People have no idea. Really southern country people do. They know how to do all that stuff because they're preppers and shit. But, city folk in the South, they're the dumbest MFers you're going to find when it comes to extreme weather. I mean, there'll be like a tornado warning, and they'll be like, let's go see if we can chase it and shit. Bob, if you're listening, I know you know what I'm talking about because we've done that before. Very exciting. Not very smart. But we did survive nevertheless. You ever think about some crazy experiences in your life that you've been in? And you're like, man, that's a situation that I really could have not survived, Like that was really wild and it was really dangerous. And I made it through. Very good learning experience and growth experience for those of us that make it through those experiences like that we all go through. Not so much for those, who fall under the weight of that collapsing bridge of Georgia 400 onto I-75, smashing their Toyota Corolla and everything inside of their car and their bald tires into oblivion. Not what I intended to talk about. This is top of the dome stuff right here. It's like Eminem rapping, top of the dome, not non sequiturs. I actually did have stuff I want to talk about this morning. So these pardons that Trump, these 1,500 pardons, that's a lot of pardons, I think he only gave a couple hundred his first administration, the 1,500 from Jan 6 and the other ones. It simply by just statistically, there's going to be like at least one of these people who by the end of next week has already committed a felony and is back behind bars. There's no doubt. Let's just hope that one person isn't Ross. Okay, that would be very disappointing if by the laws of averages, the one person or two people who happen to end up back behind bars after being pardoned is Ross Ulbricht. Okay, Ross? It would be devastating and demoralizing to the entire movement if right after you finally got that pardon, you went and knocked off a bank. Stay free, Ross. That's all I'm saying. A lot of people's morale is resting on your shoulders. How about sending me some of that Bitcoin, bro? If you get all that shit back. I mean, come on. We all helped get you out. Send me some of that Bitcoin, bro. Everybody's going to be hitting him up. Hey, Ross, come on. Come talk to me on the show. How about some of that Bitcoin, you rich MFer? Glad you're out. How about give me a little bit of that money, bro? Seriously, though, I'm not even kidding. I looked this up because I like to be as statistically accurate as possible when I talk about things like this, even though people lie with statistics all the time. This whole book, I recommend this book to everybody, How to Lie with Statistics. Start with the original one from like 1950. It's a fantastic book. And it will change the way you look at any data that is presented to you on television. It's hilarious, actually. Whoever wrote it, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's super funny. But it just shows that nothing is ever presented to the public in a way to just say, here's the information, just go judge and evaluate for yourself. It's always presented with an agenda, and that agenda is pushed primarily through using what appears to be factual data. Because people will say, oh, it's data. It's data. It's a chart. That's a chart. I wasn't going to believe this shit. But then they put this chart on screen. I'm in. It's crazy. It plays with our cognitive weaknesses. I'm just thinking about back to what I was saying at the beginning there. It's like the whole world is just all these forces trying to manipulate us into something. Some things attempting to possibly manipulate us into good things. I don't know. Like our parents raising children to raise them in the right way is a manipulation. Because you have all these other negative manipulations. You manipulate them in a good way where they embrace the direction. But man, I have a photo that I keep underneath my screen here, which I just put it there the other day, but I haven't actually really looked at it and taken it in while doing the show until just now. I knew it was there, but I'm always up here. But it says, don't ever give up. And it's got a pelican standing like in the swamp. And inside the pelican's mouth is a frog. It's dangling its legs. Don't ever give up. Is the frog trying to get out. The pelican trying to get out of the swamp. The frog trying to get out of the pelican's mouth. My dad used to give that image to his friends, coworkers. He had it posted around my parents' house whenever, because that was his philosophy. And at his funeral, I'm not going to go in a deep aside like I do sometimes, but one of his old friends from elementary school, who I had never met, I'd heard my mom and dad talk about, he came up to me and he told me a story. His son had gone missing when his name was Buddy, my parents' friend, and his son had gone missing years and years earlier. I think Buddy was a little bit older than them. So his son was years older than me, I think 15, 20 years older than me. And they were searching for him. They couldn't find him at first. And, he would talk to my mom and dad. And my dad mailed him this photo, or this drawing. It's a cartoon drawing that I just described to you, that don't ever give up. And he mailed it to him. And a few days later, they found his son. Now, that's obviously not why they found his son, but he appreciated that sentiment, and he gave me back the one that my dad gave him, which is the one I'm looking at right now. So despite all of the forces that do try to manipulate everybody in the world, many of them negative, some of them positive, when you feel overwhelmed, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Because it is actually freeing to come to the realization that things or forces that you felt were projecting a truth onto you were actually projecting a facade to increase their own power by creating those illusionary barriers for others. You can do anything that you want in the world. Anything. It's just building up that confidence that the system, the way it's set up in society, takes out of a lot of people right from the start. The public education system, I went through it. You're not taught to ask questions. You're not taught to be a groundbreaker in the public education system. You're taught to step back in line when your teacher tells you to. And honestly, that's not how kids should be taught, in my opinion. Stepping out of line is how you grow, and whatever. I'm going way off track again. on the. I do that. I do that in the morning shows too. Something about doing shows in the morning is different. Feels different than doing them at night. I think I feel this ray of. I feel very optimistic. You see, having the sun shining through the windows, and it makes me pontificate more than I might typically do. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is it's probably going to be at least 3 or 4 of those Jan 6ers that were pardoned as 1,500 that end up, that are probably going to be future sex offenders. Okay, let's be honest here. There's at least 3 or 4 in there. Let's just hope they keep it in their pants until Trump gets out of office, because the media would love that. The media is waiting for that. Rachel Maddow probably has an army of underage boys and girls that look like they're in their mid-20s that she's sending to all of the J6ers' houses, just trying to honey trap them just so they can put the headline out. Jan 6er that Trump pardoned caught with a minor or whatever, molested a donkey, whatever. Then everybody else is like, what about Hunter Biden? He's had sex with, who knows how many farm animals. And they're like, well, he was pardoned during that 11-year span. So he's acquitted of all farm animal sex that he's had, no matter how much of it is on his laptop. Although I am glad that the 51 agents who said the laptop had all the earmarks of the Russian disinformation, I'm very happy that they got their credentials revoked. That to me is one of my favorite things that Trump has done, actually. Like those, what I hate the most about that group is how sly they lie. The Hunter Biden laptop has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. They choose those words very strategically because they know what people who hear it and the media who takes it and is going to report it as. That they said that it is Russian disinformation, but they didn't say that, so they have the plausible deniability. Say, we never say that. That's what you inferred. They know what they're doing. Take those MFers' credentials away. Those are manipulating psychopath dipshits. I saw this. I like reading Study Finds. Study Finds had this article today that was like, study finds that CIA and other federal organizations, along with top corporations, have a type of person that they hire with a certain, and they called it a disability, but that disability was psychopathy. Like, no shit, we all know that. Who got paid to study that? I need you to go, here's a bunch of money, I need you to go find out what type of people the CIA hires to kill people without remorse, to manipulate society without a fleeting thought. Well, I think it might be psycho, but don't you tell me that until you go do a little bit of the research and the work. How do you get on this list of people to conduct this research that has the obvious conclusions in the question that is asked? Okay, so what did I do here? So there's 23 minutes. There's a 23-minute intro. This was going to be a 23-minute show. Decided to go with a 23-minute intro instead. If you guys want to help me continue to produce the show, you can do so by supporting the show financially by going to, I created a new show PayPal page. I had one. Actually, it's up on the screen right now. But you can make a one-time donation, or if you can do a recurring donation of any amount of your choosing, which helps stabilize the show and allows us to grow. It could be $1, could be $1,000, it could be a penny, whatever. It's just a recurring donation, completely up to you. And you can go to this, what is this? It is tinyurl.com/prop show. Tinyurl.com. Sounds very emasculating. I have a tiny URL. I don't have one of those Mike Obama URLs. You knock a baseball out of the park with. So you can do that. You can also share the show with friends. You can leave a comment that warms my heart, as many of you have done recently. And I have to say, I greatly appreciate that. I can't express to you how much that helps me. It really does. And 5-star review along with that. 5-star reviews help the show appear higher in the search results. Okay, on to the actual content of the show. Stargate AI. You guys saw that the other day. You saw the video of Trump flanked by billionaire tech guys announcing on day 2 of his presidency his new $500 billion AI infrastructure project, Stargate, which is an interesting name. Why is it called Stargate, There's meaning behind these names every time. And that one I would like to know what the conversation was leading up to this decision. Like, what were the other options? Stargate. It's a very Elon Musk-like name. Going to the stars, Mars, whatever, planting the flag up there. Yet Elon Musk is not, he's not part of this group of tech billionaires. In fact, he was calling them out as bullshit artists on X after the fact. It's just an interesting name. But as part of this project, the government is going to be collaborating with OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX, and BeOpen. Is that? No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. No, just MGX. And their speaking about it was there's a handful of these guys that were like heads of these companies that were there. The ones that I saw were the OpenAI CEO, the weirdo Sam Altman. That's like the weirdest guy anybody's ever seen. As well as the Oracle guy named Larry Ellison. He was also there. And they had the most memorable, controversial comments that were being shared around on social media, especially Ellison's. I mean, he said some bullshit that triggered a pretty big reaction. I'll play that for you, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on that, because I have some insight on this that apparently has been overlooked on social media, because some big accounts like Tim Pool and others didn't seem to know some things that I thought were very obvious from at least the beginning of the pandemic back in 2020. What's up, Bad Christian? I just don't like the sound of Stargate. That Larry Ellison talking about mRNA shifts. I completely agree about Larry Ellison. And Larry Ellison, first of all, the guy doesn't look 80 years old at all. It's crazy. He doesn't look 80 years old. What he does look like to me is he looks like a monkey that escaped from a lab and became a gentleman. Look at him in this clip. That's what he looks like to me. And I have to say, if that's the frame I'm thinking about him through, I can't be mad at him, because that's the American dream. You start off in a cage in a lab being experimented on by Dr. Fauci, and then you make it all the way up to the White House, to where you are now being called by many as the new Dr. Fauci, and now you're doing the experimenting. Maybe on some of your old friends. Here is Larry Elder. Look, and not Larry Elder. Let me get my names mixed up. Larry Ellison. These people have the same names and shit. All right. Sorry, the screen's a little off kilter here. All right, here he is. You guys have seen this, but I want to play it again, because you probably had a similar reaction to me, which was kind of like, whoa, already? Like, I'm not surprised this happened, but I'm like, this happened this rapidly was what really made me laugh about it.
Of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop, but look at this guy. Am I not wrong about this? Does he not look like an escaped lab monkey that turned into a gentleman? He does. He's almost endearing in that way.
all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that,
just to pause it there. So his credibility in presenting this point of view is that he's, I guess, a billionaire who was a co-founder of Oracle. I'm definitely not a person to say trust everything a doctor tells you. In fact, I'm very adamant about do not do that. Always question. Come in with a list of questions when you go to see a doctor about anything that is important. And the doctors that are well, they have good intent, and they care to help you instead of just pushing you through. They will be open to those questions, and they will not care if you challenge them, and they will understand that you have to challenge them and ask them questions, because they will understand that they have limits of their knowledge, and that the things that they don't know, they sometimes, the arrogant doctors seem to think that if they don't know the answer or solution to something, that there is no answer or solution to it. Outside of the limits of their knowledge, there is nothing. Good doctors are very well aware that they have limits to their knowledge, that no human being could possibly stay on top of all of the latest research going around in the country and the world, and they are open to working collaboratively with you. And they're not a dick to you for asking too many questions because you're concerned about you or your family member. Okay, now those are the people who I trust to say something like this. Not some lab monkey turned gentleman who stumbled into $1 billion somehow by co-founding this company, Oracle. Like, simply being rich does not give you credibility to speak on such a subject. But that's what a lot of these people do. They speak confidently and arrogantly about things from a position of authority behind this podium in the White House that many people, probably not people listening to this show, just they see this and they feel this and they say, oh, well, this is somebody I should trust and believe. Because look at them. I mean, I never escaped an experimental monkey lab and became a gentleman, billionaire. I should trust this monkey billionaire.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
This is bullshit, is what this is. This is a way to justify the $500 billion they're talking about, giving these companies, because that's a lot of money, right? You know, unless it's being spent on curing all the diseases of the world. And I have another idea about why this happened when it did. But this is, in my opinion, this is total bullshit, okay? And this idea that, like, especially with all the COVID stuff that happened, where people felt forced to take the COVID vaccine, like they would lose their job if they didn't do it, where people were told that it would prevent them from getting COVID, and then the goalpost moved and all the lies were revealed, where some people had actual COVID-induced vaccine side effects, which even though they try and make people believe don't exist, even they cannot deny that they have acknowledged rare ones. My dad had a rare one, and there's many others that they have not acknowledged. So there's a very, very, tender feeling about this whole thing that's going on here, which is why I think, obviously, there was such a, whoa, what the F response to this that was rolled out. It seemed a bit out of touch. But my initial thought here is artificial intelligence, which he is boasting about, how it's going to be able to identify cancer within you and then, cure it immediately. Like, it can't answer a question about any, historical fact or news event of the past week or legal precedent without hallucinating lies. Like, it literally can't do that. You cannot ask it if there is case precedent about a certain issue that the Supreme Court is facing, or if you're a lawyer, that your client might, need to have case precedent for. There was actually a law firm recently that was hired and paid lots and lots of money to defend this person, and they asked AI to give it case law, precedent cases that they could use in their case briefs. And they did. They just used them without verifying them. And it turned out that everything that AI gave them was made up. None of it was actual real case law. What it did was it took aspects of a bunch of different cases that did exist, and it combined them into one fictional case that they told these lawyers that was real, and then these dumbasses used it and were exposed to be kind of retarded. I mean, it'd probably get disbarred, honestly. If they didn't get disbarred or at least go up for some sort of review, I would be very surprised. But my sister and I actually tested this on some AI stuff with law. She's a lawyer, and it did the same thing. It did not give us real actual cases. It just made shit up. And so you can't ask it a question, AI, and have any expectation that it is going to tell you factual information. But yeah, it can detect cancer early and then help personalize an mRNA vaccine within 48 hours that will then cure that cancer. I'm sorry, I'm not buying this bullshit. How about we get AI to personalize a limerick for me that isn't retarded first, then maybe we could move on to the pre-cancer detection. And that is where people are definitely going to get a bit anxious. Not that this is forced on anybody. I totally understand that if somebody feels like they're out of options with an illness and this option is presented to them, then they would willingly be a test subject for that. But when you have this technology that has been really proven to be, in my opinion, pretty worthless for most things. Like, I think AI, everybody loves AI. They talk about, I think AI sucks. I think it's so stupid most of the time. It can aggregate information quickly, but never in a way that you're confident that what it's aggregating for you is truthful enough for you to move forward with that information. I always verify stuff that AI. I do use Perplexity sometimes to ask questions, but I never just roll with it. I always verify it. It speeds up the research process slightly, in my opinion, is the best that it can do. And it can make silly photos, of Fannie Willis sitting on Stacey Abrams' face or something. Sometimes. If you're on Grok, and the images, they don't even look right. They look like just two random black women. Don't even look like. You try to do it on Midjourney, and they ban you for 3 weeks and report you to the FBI. But it's going to early detect cancer and personalize a vaccine and transform health. Okay, this is bullshit. This is showmanship. Look at the new... it's just... look, I wish this were true, and I hope it's one day true. I really hope it's one day true. But I'm going to tell you what they're really doing here in a second. Which most of you probably know, but apparently, to my surprise, a lot of big influencers on X in the political realm were dumb to this until recently. Which brings me to this next clip about mRNA, the purpose of it, which Sam Altman spoke to. Wait, did I finish this clip? This weird monkey.
Thanks.
What was he stepping on? Do you see him step down there? Does he have like a booster step?
The promise of AI and the promise of the future.
He did.
Thanks.
He did. He had to step up on. So Trump is like 6'2". So that's what they had the mic set up for, because Trump spoke first. So this guy must be. That's funny. He must have had almost a foot step down. So he must be a really short guy. I didn't even realize that. That's funny.
Thanks.
But he's taller than that Asian guy. Okay, so here's Sam Altman. And this guy just gives me the creeps every time I see him.
I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate. We will be amazed at how quickly we're curing this cancer and that one and heart disease, and what this will do for.
And heart disease. Maybe myocarditis. Maybe the mRNA can cure the increase in myocarditis that has happened in recent years.
The ability to deliver very high quality healthcare, the costs, but really to cure the diseases at a rapid rate, I think will be among the most important things this technology does.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Step down. Very good. Very, very good. I mean, I don't think there's a person on the planet that wouldn't be thrilled if that were true. Rapidly curing cancer and heart disease, personalized. That is the whole promise of mRNA, which is what I'm about to get into, is that personalization of medicine. Instead of having to be more general about some of the treatments that are given, which doctors who you find that are, I don't want to say anybody's a bad doctor or a good doctor, but some doctors spend a lot of time meeting a lot of different types of doctors. My mom had a rare disease for 18 years. She was told she would die after 2 years. One of the doctors who told her that eventually wrote a letter apologizing to Emory University and highlighting what my mom had accomplished and achieved despite being told that she never would. And the reason that she was told she would never achieve many of these things is because of these doctors who thought that because they didn't know something, that something couldn't be possible. That knowledge didn't exist outside of the limitations of their own. Which, to this doctor's credit I'm thinking about, acknowledge that. There are doctors who are well aware that they are human, and I don't know what the makeup of a person is. I mean, it doesn't matter what profession somebody's in. I mean, I got arrested when I was in college once, and the whole time I was in there, this cop was telling me, he was only a little bit older than me, telling me about how he became a cop because his brother told him he never could. He clearly had some sort of chip on his shoulder where he just clearly wanted to get people. And I was very sarcastic most of the time, as I usually am. But I saw this officer a few weeks later at a bar. He was off duty. And I wasn't drinking because I was driving and I just gotten in trouble. I was like 20 years old. And I saw this guy staring at me, and he's just staring at me like he wants to kill me. And it took me a second. I was like, oh, that's that cop who has a chip on his shoulder about his brother, and that's why he became a cop. And for some reason, he spent the entire 3 hours, me and my friends were locked up in the drunk tank, telling us aggressively about how he's proving how much of a man he is to his brother about being a cop. Okay, so I went over and I said to him, I was like, hey, man, you've been looking at me. Is everything cool? And he's like, you know who the F I am? And I was like, you're the police officer. Like, I was like 20. This guy's probably 25. And I was like, yeah, you're that police officer who was working the drunk tank when I was there. And he goes, I'll have you effing arrested right now. And I'm like, for what? He's like, disorderly conduct, mother. So, and he just wanted to use his power and authority against me that he had through this position. And I think there's going to be people like that in any type of profession. And when situations arise that you question their authority and their knowledge, then you will get a similar type of reaction. I have had similar types of reaction in a different context with doctors who believed that they were end all and be all. Other doctors, very well aware, and they would actually work very hard with you to personalize your treatment. Like they're saying mRNA is going to pioneer. It's already happening. Maybe not as rapidly as they say it's going to happen, but there are already great doctors all over the country. When you find them, you find bad doctors, you find another. You say, screw this guy, you find another, or girl, or they, and you find another one. And there are doctors that will help you personalize treatment to your unique condition if you're proactive enough to find them and ask them the right questions. Just the very premise of this personalized medicine, which all this bullshit is, kind of pisses me off because it reinforces this idea that people don't have the power to find the right people, to ask the right questions, to receive personalized treatment themselves. Everybody, in my opinion, when I say has the right, I mean you have to take control of the right, you know. It's not like it has to be given to you. We've been led to believe that we have to passively accept things that these people in white lab coats with stethoscopes tell us. But we don't. We actually don't. And many of them will happily personalize your treatment for you. And if you bring them information that you find, if you have a condition or a family member has a condition, you do research, you help them because they're working, treating people, and you bring them information that might be new, they will be thankful to you and they will go above and beyond to help you. You don't need some AI that you're told is going to find something within you, which, like I said, I hope that that's true. But the problem that this brings up is, how do we trust it? They're going to put some sort of AI thing to test my blood or whatever, and it's going to tell me preemptively that I have something that needs to have a vaccine personalized for me to prevent. How do you know that it's not hallucinating a condition and baiting you into taking some sort of personalized vaccine based on a fiction that this AI that we know AI is not good at telling the truth made up? Michael says these guys are aliens and they're bringing us the cure. And that's what digital words. I mean, this guy here, Sam Altman, he's not making a convincing case that he's not an alien. I'll tell you that. Frighten Me says letting the aliens into our realm. And Frighten Me says normalizing Operation Stargate seems like they are admitting they're allowing AI disembodied entities to habitat our physical dimension. If they move forward with this, I don't know that I could disagree with that, but I think that this is all bullshit show. With everything I just said, I think that none of this is going to... I think we probably won't hear about any of this shit again, honestly. Not in any practical manner. Nick says salt is a cure, but look into it deeper about... Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting to, Nick. You're exactly right about that. So, Tim Pool, very popular Tim Pool. He's got a big following. Works very hard. I would never... Tim Pool, I'll give him all the credit in the world. The dude works hard. He's always worked hard. And that is... Showing up every day is like 75% of the battle, you know. I find him insightful occasionally. I don't know that I've ever, one time in my life, chuckled or laughed at all at his show. That's just me. I am a critic of comedy because I've done comedy for a very long time. So when I see online people and groups like Tim Pool thinking they're hilarious, I just kind of roll my eyes. But that's not the point of what I'm talking about. The point is, Tim Pool tweeted yesterday. He tweeted the following question in response to Larry Ellison's, the monkey turned gentleman, his claim. And Tim said this. He said, so with was mRNA mass vaccination intended to be an experiment to collect data for mRNA technology? He tweeted this yesterday, January 22nd, 2025. Of course, yes. Of course, that's obviously what it's always been since the very beginning. mRNA technology has been around since long before COVID. Maybe he's engagement farming. He's very good at that. Some of these people are a lot better at social media than me. And I catch myself getting like, man, is this dude stupid? Oh, no, he's just engagement farming. Maybe that's what he's doing here. Because I just can't imagine that he didn't know the answer to that question was yes 4 years ago, at the very minimum. I used to talk about this on the show all the time when it was first announced that they were trying to expedite the development of, in the mass production of, an mRNA COVID vaccine. 2020, all the time I talked about this. The NIH, the other organizations around the world, they believe, and they have long believed, that this mRNA technology is their key to the life extension technology that will enable them, these transhumanists, to live to ages beyond what man can currently live. And the foundation of achieving this is mRNA technology. I started reading all of their publications about this as soon as I learned about the COVID vaccine they were going to try and push upon us back in 2020, only to discover that they've been studying this shit since the 60s. DARPA, all of these global organizations funded by tax dollars, one, but also wealthy tech and other billionaires from around the world. I mean, this is what they think is their key. And so a lot of people, when the vaccine came out for COVID, there was a lot of talk of, oh, they're just trying to kill everybody. That's not what they were trying to do. And it's not what they're trying to do here. Sure, they're perfectly fine with a side effect of this stuff, killing people. That's an acceptable casualty of trying to expedite the development of this technology. But their main purpose is to perfect what they think is the end-all, be-all of cures for everything. And that is mRNA technology applied to a long list of ailments. I have a list here. I'll give you in a second. But as you guys know, the way you expedite the development of this, it's like in Silicon Valley, where the philosophy is move fast and break things, so that you can rapidly develop this new innovative technology. Except in this case, with mRNA technology, the way that they're testing it and trying to develop it, it's move fast and break people. Because they're taking it out of the clinical trial lab room and they're just giving it to the populations around the world. Under the guise, starting in COVID, of you're going to die, we're going to terrify you, but now that you're terrified and are sure you're going to die, we have this solution that we hastily put together that you feel like you have no choice but jab into you now, even though there's been no actual research done on how it might affect you or people like you for this condition. Because it takes a long time to develop these things in clinical trials. You have to start on animals, then you have to bring people in, you have to do all this different testing, you have to figure out what could go wrong, all the bullshit. That takes fucking forever. But now that they have this system of mass communication and social media where they connect everybody to all the time, they can pump the propaganda out that strikes fear into people's hearts a lot more rapidly than they could before. I mean, almost overnight they can create terror about the latest thing, and then acceptance of what would have been a clinical trial for like mRNA technology, but now is just the public as the clinical trial, the guinea pigs. That's what this has always been. And that's what that if this is to move forward with this, was actually don't think this is going to go anywhere, honestly. I think this is a whole nother show. But that's what this would be too. And I'm not even saying that if I or somebody I knew was in a situation where they felt they had no other choice, I would think about have I been propagandized into thinking this. But if you're out of options, you're going to try some shit, okay? Which is why they try and create circumstances where as many people feel like they're out of options as possible. Nick says, sold as a cure. Oh, yeah, that's what, I read that one already. Nick says that, let's see, I can't quite see my screen very well here. Is that Louisiana, LA? Or LA, not Louisiana, Los Angeles. Is the first mega smart city emerging, and they want your data. Yeah, they do. They want to build a government website all out. So that's what we've been piloting in Ukraine, is what Nick's talking about here, is fully digital e-infrastructure. That's, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why we continue to give Ukraine not enough weapons and tech to beat Russia and end the war, and we didn't withhold enough weapons from them so that Russia could crush them. We gave them just enough so that they could sustain this war and Russia could just demolish their entire infrastructure so that it could be built back better as a fully digital e-infrastructure and the first fully digital e-government on the planet, which Zelensky promised he would turn Ukraine into, I think, in 2020. And that we facilitated through the $30 million that we funded. Samantha Powers goes around talking all the time about how the silver lining of the Ukraine war is how we have expedited the application or the adoption, I guess, of the DIA app by the entire Ukrainian society. All of their information, all of their data is on this one app. And that's the pilot. And they're already trying it in other countries too. Lex Friedman was touting the benefits to Ukraine of the digital gun government. Oh, was he? Well, I don't know. So I've seen a little bit of Lex Friedman, but he kind of weirds me out. And he seems a little suspicious to me. I don't know his backstory. What do you guys know about his backstory? Seems like kind of a Fed or something. So, this whole thing makes me think of, when you're in the clinical trial, you test whatever technology you're developing on different types of animals and then different types of people that come in. You guys remember when Bibi Netanyahu begged Dr. Fauci to test, and the Biden admin, I think it was when Biden had been in office, on the Israeli population because they mandated the vaccine in Israel. They were required to get it, and Bibi begged Fauci. He said, "I have all of these different types of demographics here. He's like, this is your testing ground. Please test everything on them." And that's what they did worldwide. Is they had all these different types of mRNA, and they could compare and contrast it with non-mRNA vaccines. The amount of data they were able to collect during the pandemic, it's like 1,000-fold at least what they would have been able to collect had all of this stuff been done in the clinical trial process that was previously in place. Frank Me says he seems like an intel operation, an asset that Lex Friedman does. He kind of does to me too. Some of these people just come out of nowhere. I know sometimes it seems like someone comes out of nowhere, and then when you look into them, they've actually been working really hard. But other times, especially in the social media age we live in, somebody comes out of nowhere, and then you look into them, and they have like 15 years of social media presence completely deleted, like nothing. And then, like 6 months ago, they just blew up. It's like, okay, that's a little suspicious to me. What's going on with this missing time? And to really hammer this point home, because I do hear people talk about this a lot. Here's a couple just examples of mRNA stuff that they've been doing for a long time. So this is from, what year is this? January 2018 from Natural Reviews, Drug Discovery, titled mRNA Vaccines, A New Era in Vaccinology. You come over to this one. This one says the mysterious $2 billion biotech is revealing the secrets behind its new drugs and vaccines. This is funny. Science visited Moderna in 2017. I love that Science visited Moderna. Who is that? Fauci? Is he Science? Visited Moderna in 2017 for an early look at its innovative RNA-based technology for drugs and vaccines. And then it goes on and it talks about mRNA as well. And you come over to this one here. And this one is from March of 2015, a new system of gene therapy using mRNA introduction for treating neurological disorders. And then over here, you have DARPA awards Moderna Therapeutics a grant for up to $25 million to develop messenger RNA therapeutics. And over here, you have DARPA tweeting back in 2017 that Moderna has begun Phase 1 trials of DARPA-funded mRNA Zika vaccine and cleared to begin the trials of mRNA 1388. And now this is from Perplexity. As I said, I did look to see if, make sure this wasn't a hallucination. But I was asking, just what types of ailments do scientists believe mRNA can heal? And just here's a short list of them. Infectious diseases like COVID-19, rabies, influenza, tuberculosis, hepatitis B, pancreatic cancer, rectal cancer, melanoma, genetic diseases, cystic fibrosis, hereditary diseases. I can't even pronounce some of these words. Allergies, peanut allergies, dust mite allergies, cardiovascular conditions, heart attack, stroke, heart failure, neurodegenerative diseases, as ALS, dementia, autoimmune disorders, multiple sclerosis, blood disorders, sickle cell disease. We are the guinea pigs for the perfection of the mRNA technology that the transhumanists hope will one day possibly make them immortal. To exaggerate a little bit. Moderna was founded by DARPA, of course. Yes. I believe it. You go watch the DARPA, check in on their YouTube page and their live streams every now and then, or videos. And they'll just post some crazy stuff that they're doing. Mitchell says, I'm on Rockfin, says, I think I'm starting to understand the reason for some shit that happened a few years ago. What do you mean, Mitchell? Like during COVID or just for you personally? All right. Yeah. So Tim Pool probably knows a lot of this. He's probably engagement farming. Maybe not. I don't know. Some people who get big followings and are running a business, it's just like doctors. It's hard to be a researcher and also be a practitioner. So maybe he's getting stovepiped information. Maybe he's got people giving up. Maybe he's not doing the research himself. Just like presidents, people in power. Information gets stovepiped to them. They have people around them who they trust for one reason or another, who give them the relevant information that they need to know and nothing else, in the hopes that that information is accurate and is in fact what they need to know and doesn't leave out other things that would change how they viewed it. And then you have to go back to that person. Is this person getting the information themselves or somebody stovepiping it to them? I mean, it could be a trail of stovepiping, which obviously was happening to Biden. Happens to all presidents, but Biden, I actually think, especially after hearing some of the people just openly talk now about how they actively prevented him from watching television. I used to think that Biden knew 100% that he was full of shit when he was talking about how Trump called the neo-Nazis fine people, and that's why he ran for president. But after watching some of this stuff, and there's a moment during that debate with Trump where Trump said, Snopes even debunked that Biden had this reaction of like it was a real reaction where Biden seemed he seemed genuinely angry and shocked, like he thought Trump was lying. And I think that Biden actually probably still doesn't realize that the thing that he ran for president on, based on, because he didn't watch the Charlottesville fine people thing. Somebody told him about that. He was sleeping on a beach. I think that he genuinely hasn't been aware of what's actually been going on in this country for probably almost 10 years. He's had handlers around him shaping his view of reality. And it's crazy. It's like he is the most bought in true believer. I think most of the mainstream media, Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper, Brian Stelter, they all know they're full of shit and lying. But the president of the United States, Biden, I feel pretty confident that he believed a lot of the shit that he propagated. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And so that's the fear when it comes to people in power. And that's why it's good. Say what you will about Trump, and there's a lot of things, like this whole thing with rolling out this Stargate thing. That's kind of like, all right. But it's good to have somebody who questions things a lot up there. Which, by the way, I think actually one of the main purposes of that whole, performance with these Stargate tech billionaires, I think part of it was that Biden, throughout his entire presidency, said, we're going to cure cancer. We're curing cancer. And obviously, he never did. I don't think anybody believed he did, but he continued to say that up until the end. And so Trump gets into office, and on day 2, what does he do? He brings out all these tech billionaires to say that we are definitely going to cure cancer and do the thing that Biden promised but never actually followed through on. I think part of it was that. And it's a small part of it. And justifying giving them all that money. Because if you can create immortality, then there's no limit on the amount of money you can spend for that. The COVID jab. Yeah, man. Mitchell, the COVID jab thing was, there was so much pressure and so much just lies. I mean, proven lies. I was of the opinion when this whole thing came out, because we talked about this on the show on a regular basis, because I had a lot of experience questioning doctors because of my experience with my mom. I watched my mom and dad, because my mom had a rare disease. And when you have a rare disease, you find yourself in a lot of situations where you're being told that there's nothing anybody can do for you. So you either accept that and die, or you challenge them and you ask questions that they haven't thought about, and you find people who's willing to engage in those questions. And so I had experienced having to confront doctors about about assertions they had made and things that they had prescribed and conclusions that they had said were inevitable in uncomfortable situations. Not near as much as my mom and dad did, but I learned from them. And so when COVID came around and I read through the clinical studies they did before they rolled this stuff out, I'm like, this is crazy. This is if anybody's reading these clinical studies and what they're rolling out, this is absolutely crazy. The thing that stood out to me the most was they did not allow the most vulnerable people, the elderly people, pregnant women and stuff like that, into the clinical trials that they initially did before getting that rapid approval to roll it out. They only allowed the healthiest, youngest people into these trials. The people who were least likely to have any negative side effect, who are going to give them the 99% efficacy stuff that they needed to propagandize the public with. And then what did they do after they got all of this from the healthiest people that they could test it on, knowing they'd get that? They then gave it first to the very people that they excluded from the clinical trials because of the risk it posed to them. The elderly people, the pregnant. It was crazy to me that wasn't a major news story. We talked about it all the time. And I would tell people, I don't know what it's going to do. I know that they want it to work eventually for them as life extension technology, but I think that they don't have a clue, and that they prevented the people who it could very well have awful consequences with from actually being tested until they could convince you it was perfect. And then they just put it all in because they won people's minds at that point. I mean, it really was a crazy time. It still feels not even that far away, you know. You can look at things in your life back 10, 15 years, and it feels like you can have kind of a bird's eye view and reflect on it in a little bit of a different way as a different person. I mean, that stuff, you can do that a little here, but the COVID stuff still feels so close and near that, like, I joke about it a lot, but really, like, 50 years from now, looking back on that, that's like one of the craziest times in history of mankind, really, what they did. The sociological data, along with all the mRNA and all that shit, just the way that they learned they could manipulate people and using social media and all of these different types of appeals through modern technology. It's crazy. I mean, they did the same thing with the polio vaccine. Same strategy, except not all of the technology that could just reach so many people instantaneously. All right. All right. I've talked enough about that. I'm going to skip the Rachel Maddow stuff. I'm going to save that for later and go to a couple lighter stories to get out of here on. So this is from the AP, this story here. The Associated Press, trusted news wire. You know, nothing's more trustworthy than the AP. If it comes from the AP, you know, it's as solid as a legal case from ChatGTP. There's apparently a sunfish. I don't know if you're familiar with sunfish, but grow to be pretty large, apparently. And there's a solitary sunfish that is at an aquarium in southwestern Japan that lost its appetite recently. And it began banging its body into the side of the giant fish tank that it was in at this aquarium, and it appeared to be unwell. Doing all of this in the aftermath of the facility closing, I think in the middle of December, for a 6-month renovation. So the facility is closing down. We're doing 6 months of renovation. And right after that, this giant sunfish in the aquarium, which for some reason is by itself at this point, starts banging its body against the glass. And as the article goes here, which I have to say, this article is extraordinary to me because of the lack of probing questions that whoever gathered this information from the source at the aquarium asked, as well as the lack of probing questions. Anybody who works, I feel like the people involved in this story, as well as the AP, might be the actual dumbest people on the planet. as a last-ditch measure to save, because they thought it was going to die, this fish, to save this very popular fish. It's from the blowfish family, the same family as Ted Cruz. Has big eyes. One of the reasons it's so popular. I have big eyes. Maybe I should go to an aquarium. To save this fish, its keepers, the keepers of the fish, had to resort to setting up human cardboard cutouts and putting their work uniforms on them and setting them outside the fish tank. They're out of options. We've tried everything. The only thing we can think to do is get some cardboard cutouts, take our shirts off and put our shirts on them and put them in front of the fish tank for the fish. It's like it's Major League Baseball during the pandemic when nobody was allowed to go to a game. And so the teams had to play in front of empty stadiums, and the MLB just attempting to remedy this odd situation and bring some normality back to the game, decided to do the most abnormal thing ever, which is filling the seats of these stadiums with cardboard cutouts of fake people. Which you toss a foul ball as an outfielder to a fake person, to a cardboard cutout, it can't catch it. You can't make a cardboard cutout of a kid happy by throwing it a foul ball because it can't catch the foul ball. It's not a human being. It's a piece of cardboard with a paper face on it. You can't be a promiscuous star player popping his head out of the dugout and seeing a lady that you like, a cardboard lady over the dugout, and then go have sex. Well, I guess you can still do that, depending on what your preferences are as a player. But that's what this story feels like. The cardboard cutout solution, the weirdest solution to try and make something normal, except in this context, for a fish that seems to be trying to kill itself by throwing itself up against its glass aquarium. Now, it really gets stupid here is because the next morning, after these employees, these very bright employees that the AP did no probing on, question probing, not that kind of, not the UAP probing, not the drones over Jersey probing someone might get. They say after staging these cutouts of themselves, and what they did is they cut like magazine faces with smiles on it and they put it on there. They say miraculously, the sunfish finally, after they thought it was going to die, began eating again for the first time in weeks. It's a miracle. Thank God Lucy or whoever had the idea of cardboard cutouts to save the giant fish. I question whether or not that's what saved the fish. And you might agree or disagree with me as we continue through the story here. Although I do think it's ironic, though, that cutouts are what allegedly saved this fish. Because apparently fish are just as vulnerable to espionage as we people are. Just put a cutout in there, it'll believe anything. Their handlers telling this fish, this is the truth, this is reality, these are real people. And the fish is like, okay, I'll eat again. That's all I needed to see, is these very real people. It's like deep fakes, almost like it's like the old school deep fake, the cardboard cutout. And these stupid ass fish believe it. Fish are actually smarter than people think. I think they're organizing against us, to be honest with you. So the story continues. What's up, Tony? It says, hold on. This is so funny. Okay, yeah. So construction is going on because they're renovating this, right? And again, this fish is in there by itself. And they're renovating the inside of this aquarium for 6 months. That's a pretty big renovation. That's not just painting walls. I mean, that's knocking walls down. That's clearing things out. It's a lot of construction noise that's going on, right? that this fish, which is all of a sudden by itself, is experiencing suddenly, an experience it's never had before in its life, right? This fish, the sunfish, lived most of its life until it was captured and taken to this aquarium 600 feet below the surface of the ocean. Over 600 feet. Where it's highly unlikely that it ever encountered a bunch of jackhammers and excavators destroying the environment that it lived in. It's probably not something that it experienced frequently while in the deep waters of the ocean. So perhaps this unnatural situation is what might have led to some of its, unease and thus throwing itself up against the glass. I also can't help but wonder, as Carrie, what's her name, from Sex and the City might say, if on top of that maybe the fact that this fish woke up one day and despite seeing all its friend fish around the night before and all the other cases, across the way, it all of a sudden was the last remaining aquatic being. Everybody was gone when it woke up. And jackhammers and excavators were making violent, loud noises it had never heard before. Maybe that was part of what the people involved seemed to think the solution to was cardboard cutouts. Although I don't think they ever actually diagnosed the problem. So, skipping forward, not to belabor, but I will belabor on this because I just, some stories I think are so stupid they're worth belaboring. I was thinking about it when I was reading this, and I was like, what if you were that? Like, what if we were that fish? Because you don't often put yourself in a fish's perspective. For example, if we put ourselves in a fish's perspective and we're swimming around with a school of fish, and all of a sudden a member of that school of fish, maybe our uncle or whatever, friend, just gets yanked up into the ether. Because all we know is water. To us, the top of the water is the end of existence. And yet our friend from the school of fish just got yanked through the end of existence, something that we didn't know was even a thing until just now. And then 5 minutes later, bam, falls back through the heavens into the water with one of his eyes dangling out. Like what? He's swimming circles. It's like their version of getting probed. Putting myself in the position of what's it like to be this fish again. Imagine, you lived your entire life 600 plus feet deep in the ocean. Before you were captured, you're brought to this aquarium you call home now. And for the first time, all your friends disappear. And then you hear these violent monsters. Like if you were a person, you wake up in your home. You see all your friends the night before. You walk outside, and all of a sudden, all of your friends are gone. Nobody in your neighborhood is there anymore. They're all gone. You're the only one. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. You look around. You're like, where's everybody? You're knocking on the door. Hello? Where are you? They're all gone. All of your neighbors and friends and family are gone, except for you. And then you start hearing this violent, sound, like a sound that you've never heard before, ever in your life. Like it's a banging sound. It's just a deep, I don't want to say grumbling, but it's terrifying you because it's the first time. And then as you're hearing this almost treacherous sound, and you're the only one remaining, you see that these giant monsters, these like metallic monsters, much bigger than you, are coming around the corner, making the sounds, and they're just ripping apart everything in your immediate environment. They're tearing apart the yards, destroying the houses, ripping up the concrete. Every one of your friends' house, you watch all of them get destroyed by these monsters who, based on your situation, the only thing you can conclude is that you're the last remaining survivor of some sort of alien invasion, and that they're intentionally terrifying you by destroying everything else before coming after you to finally end the human race. That's the situation that this sunfish was in this aquarium, that these employees thought, you know what, maybe we put some cardboard cutouts. I have to say, I don't know that if in the midst of all this terror that we would be experiencing if we were in this situation, if we looked over and we saw like 4 cardboard cutouts of fish wearing work shirts, I don't know that that would ease our anxiety. I think it would just make everything a little bit weirder. It might make us think we're hallucinating, perhaps. Maybe that would be, maybe we'd start eating again if we thought it was all a hallucination. Which they then reveal, it's just so obvious what was going on, but the AP doesn't point it out. Nobody asked a question about it. Because the article continues and it says, hold on, let me find it. It says, okay. So, construction. All right, so here's what one of the employees told the AP. They said that the starfish, when or the sunfish, not the starfish, disgusting. They said that when it stopped eating, that they thought maybe it was a digestive problem. So they stopped feeding it as much. So they thought maybe it was just overeating. Nothing to do with the brand new terror it was experiencing for the first time. Maybe they're just eating too much. It's just a fat ass. It's a fat fuck. You fat fuck, stop eating everything, was what they thought. Then that didn't work. And so what they tried after that was they had employees come outside and stand outside the aquarium while construction was going on inside there. And they just stood there and looked at the fish so the fish could see it while the construction was going on, hoping that this would help it. And the employees say that this did not help. So that failed. So their next solution was the cardboard cutouts, which they say worked. So the reasoning here is the real people standing there did not ease the anxiety of the fish, but the cardboard cutouts of fake people with frozen smiles from magazines that they cut faces off of and like glued on there. Those actually are what solved the problem. The fish saw the real people and said no, but then they saw the cardboard cutouts and said, you know what, I'll eat. I feel better. At no point in this article does the AP or anybody who they talk to bring up, hey, maybe it started eating again because the construction stopped. Or how these idiots that work there have been putting cardboard cutouts of themselves with work shirts. I guess they're all topless, work shirts on, thinking that this is why this fish is eating again. That's not why the fish is eating again, you dumb shits. It's because the construction moved elsewhere. This is an AP story today. It was at the top of the newsfeed on the AP. I don't know why. This is the type of stuff that gets me worked up, really, is the lack of logic and stuff like this, and the lack of questions pointing out the lack of logic. What's up, JC? What else are they saying here? Oh, yeah, so, like, one of them said that when they were setting up the cardboard cutouts, they were like, we could tell the fish was looking at us. It's as though, like, we know that this is why it felt better. Because it saw what we were doing, and it said yes. Yes, you knew that the cardboard cutouts is what I as a fish needed. No, it was looking at you because it was wondering probably, why are real people setting up fake people while all this terrorism is going on inside here? And I've been left alone as the only fish remaining in this aquarium. Why is it the only fish remaining is a question I looked that up, and I actually searched for a little while. I spent way too much time trying to figure that out than I should have. What do they do with all the other ones? They're probably all hanging out together, not being terrorized by these dipshits. It says, at a staff meeting, when they couldn't figure out the problem, one person suggested that the sunfish might be affected by the sudden absence of an audience. So this was the other explanation that these idiots had. Well, maybe the sunfish is trying to kill itself because it's a narcissist. It just loves being the center of attention. And it doesn't have a crowd. Therefore, let's put some cardboard cutouts. Make sure to put smiley faces on it, which it says that. Because if it's not accepted by its audience, it'll jump out of the water and end it all. Like if it even looks like one of these cardboard cutouts with a magazine faces put on it is booing or heckling them, it's over. This fish is dead. It's done. Because the only thing it lives for is to be accepted by the humans that watch it outside of a glass. This is an AP story. One of the quoted employees said, I know the sunfish was looking at us, what I was talking about earlier, when placing them, but I never thought it would start eating the next day. The employee said, beaming. That's what the article says. They were beaming about this. Beaming with retardation, I guess. Finally, what is this? What the hell is this? Oh, yeah. So what they did afterwards is once the thing started eating again, is all these employees, they started showing up. And so what they do now is they have the cardboard cutouts and they all stand there and they wave at it. They wave at the fish. They think the fish is like, yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is why I'm eating again. Because of this dumb shit that you're doing. Has nothing to do with the fact that the construction that was literally terrorizing me is elsewhere. I don't know how much these people get paid, but they were referring to these employees as like fish experts. And I don't know if they were fish doctors. I'm no fish doctor. I'm not going to lie. All right, I'm doing one more. I don't care. I'm getting through it. How long are we on this ride today? It is a crazy time, Denver. All right. Now we're rolling at an hour and a half now. Last one. Let me put this thing up on the screen. Get this shit out of here. You guys might have seen the story of the sexy productivity partner going around. Maybe you have a sexy productivity partner. Yeah, there's the AP headline there. Sunfish that got sick after aquarium closed has recovered thanks to human cutouts. And I don't think that is why it recovered. All right, here we go. So, I love this story so much. Headline is Sexy AI Chatbot is getting a busty robot body to become a productivity partner for lonely men. Says that a popular sexy AI agent, is set to receive a robotic body that becomes a, quote, productivity partner for lonely men in the real world. Right off the bat, I have questions. There's some issues maybe about the reasoning behind this new product. Men, ladies, we spend most of our time every day trying not to think about sex, try not to sexualize like everything, just so we can be the least bit productive. Just to get anything done, we have to use all of our cognitive resources to not sexualize things. Okay, that's how men are. And yet here we have a product that seems to be premised on the idea that a piece of technology that we think is very sexy is going to make us more productive. I beg to differ on that. I've never found myself, working from home, unable to focus, saying to myself, if only my laptop were a little sexier, then I'd be crushing today. That's never, maybe you guys never gone through my head. If the goal of this product was to actually provide a productivity partner for men, or maybe women, or they, whatever. I just assume by the look of this thing that this is a product designed for men. They'd make this thing ugly. They'd make it fat. They'd make it annoying. They'd even make it a little bit gross, okay? Not gross enough that we couldn't be around it, but just gross enough so that the last thing we want to think about while we're in its presence is sex. That's like the perfect productivity partner. Just gross enough so that we don't want to think about sex, but we can still be around because it helps focus us. Because it knows us, like this AI. I mean, what certainly looks like a sex bot would do, but I don't want to put words in their mouth because they definitely say it's not a sex bot. The article then says, it talks about how this productivity partner, and you can see it on screen here, there it is. It describes it as being named Elzios. And they say it's designed to be a young woman, an Asian young woman, as you can see, who's 5'10", very tall, who has long black hair, dark trimmed glasses, pouty lips, and large breast. Pouty lips, large breast, 5'10", Asian, sexy productivity pal. How can any man be productive in the presence of this type of... No, that doesn't happen. This is the naughty librarian in every pornography that any dude has ever watched. And I don't think that's making anybody more productive. It's corrupting their minds. It actually sounds, calling this thing a productivity partner, sounds like the bad explanation that a dude gives his wife or girlfriend for the thing she just found, in his closet. What the hell is this? It's a productivity partner. My boss gave it to me. What do you mean it's got tits? I didn't notice the tits. I didn't notice. Really? It has tits? I didn't notice. It just helps me organize and, get my calendar in order. The company claims that Eliza, I don't know why, but apparently this thing can also cut a cigar and pour a drink. And it will come custom tailored clothes. So you got to dress it every day, I guess. Or you can let it wear the same clothes if you want. But it comes with custom tailored clothes. And it also comes with some optional accessories. But I like the fact that it will bring you drinks because you got to get pretty drunk the first time. You get real productive with this thing here. This is the best part about this. While Eliza Labs says that the robot was not designed for sex, it was not designed for sex. No, despite it looking like every pornography any guy's ever seen. Why does it have glasses? As Sir Tim of Tunnels pointed out on X. It's not vision impaired, doesn't have astigmatism. It has glasses so that it appears more bangable to the dude who might buy it to live out their fantasy. But it's not designed for sex. It's designed, to get through your emails faster. Stop doom scrolling because your productivity partner will help you. Yeah, it's not designed for sex. What is that? Wonder where they put the cigar cutter. It's a good question, Tony. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll help us find that out here. I have an idea where they might put it. In her hand, you pervert. It says, I'm kidding. I'm retarded. That they're like adding a feature to it. Like right. Like you see this thing. Look at the video. Look at that thing. I mean, look how they're presenting it. They're presenting it like it's got. It might as well be fingering itself while it walks down this walkway. Where did you sleep last night? Yeah, in a bed of productivity. As it slowly. Yeah, this thing is quite frankly terrifying, to be honest. Are these the large breasts it describes? Oh, it slowly blinks. Now, they might as well have this thing swallowing a banana full and fingering itself during this, with a little disclaimer that says, not intended for sexual use. Which they further emphasize that this is not intended for sexual use here in the article by saying that even though it's not intended to be slept with, that they have decided to go ahead and add to this product, this productivity product, an artificial vagina. You're not supposed to touch it, but they put it in there. You know, it's like a just-in-case vagina. Not that that's like justifiable, but they understand, you know? Sometimes you could be working with your productivity bot, having such productivity, having the best, most productive day that you've ever had because of your productivity bot, accomplished more than you have in 12 hours than you did in the previous 5 years before this thing came into your life. Everything you two are doing are just in sync. It's hitting. You're saying, bring me another drink. Bring me another drink. You're starting to feel a little loose from all the drinks it's bringing you. And then it brings you like your fifth whiskey sour. And you eagerly go to grab it instead of waiting for it to pour it in your mouth. And your hand touches its hand. And you feel something. You don't know what it is. The excitement of accomplishment, of a new friend that's led you to places that you never thought you'd be in your career, the warm touch of a cold robot, you lock eyes with it. Sparks fly and you can't help yourself. You start ripping your clothes off. You start making out with this thing as it stands there, dropping the drink. You're tearing your clothes off. You're pulling your pants down, and then you whip its skirt up, in the heat of the moment. And at that point in time, you might as well have a just-in-case vagina on this thing. I mean, as a business, the last thing you want to happen is for the productivity to be so enticing and exciting that it leads to such a moment of potential sexual pleasure that when the skirt is pulled up, there's no, like, you need a vagina there in that moment. If there's no vagina there, what a disappointment. I mean, what a buzzkill. You're going to get a lot of complaints, a lot of BBB reviews. Look, I accomplished all of my dreams with this thing. It got me super horny, and there's no vagina. I spent hours trying to find some hole in this thing just to stick my dick in. Could you guys at least put a just-in-case vagina there? We know it's not the primary purpose of this thing, but just in case, it works so well that I can't help but bang it, please. And then they complied, obviously. And nobody would ever use that. Nobody's ever buying it for that reason. They're buying it, for productivity. It's just like any other productivity product, I know I would be far more efficient if my laptop had pouty lips and giant tits. Or my sticky notepad, whatever. The future will need a lot of lube. Yes, it will. It's just things should come with, not lube. It's just in case lube, obviously. It's like in case of emergency, break lube glass. But it gets even more contradictory in what they're saying here. Let me find it. Jack says, can't wait for all the bots, for all the chat bots. Can't wait until all the chat bots cancel their own. Dude, so I there it is. There's a better picture. Looking at this thing, and I don't know who wrote this article. Some of these Daily Mail articles are either AI. Maybe this chatbot wrote the article. Who knows? But it says here that Matthew Graham is an advisor to the company. So all the people that built this thing in this article, they're anonymous. So the entire company does it. They all use one name. Their wives probably think they work at like they're like pharmacists at a CVS, but they're actually sneaking off to some creepy ass warehouse where they're all wearing lab coats and testing the bangability of various productivity products. You got one guy, he's like on top of a desk, plowing a desktop organizer. It's like, this thing could use an artificial vagina. Like, this is all they do. And they're in corners of this weird, creepy lab that all these anonymous people work at. And somebody else has got like a desktop calendar in the corner. Pouty lips on this thing. So this guy, what he said was, this will be the most advanced humanoid robot ever seen outside of a lab. I guess not inside of a lab, though. I mean, what's inside that lab other than, all the sexualized productivity products? The sexiest Evernote you've ever seen, Google Docs inside that lab. I mean, you can't walk past these software organizing apps without getting rock hard inside this lab. The vagina they included in this thing, I could see where that might confuse people as to the purpose of it. But for some reason, they've also added some other features to this bot. The article claims that this non-sex bot with a vagina can run an 8-minute mile. It says that it can run an 8-minute mile speed, and it says it can run faster than the 9 or 10 minutes it takes a human to complete the same distance, which that's when I really started to wonder, who wrote this article? Did the drones over Jersey write this article? Did the non-human intelligence write this article? Who thinks that humans can at best run only a 9 or 10 minute mile and said, we need to keep this thing beyond the speed any human can reach, in case it forgets the primary directive of this thing, productivity, and starts trying to bang it too much. So it can run away. If it starts trying to rape its productivity bot, it's got to be able to get away. And humans can only reach speeds of a 9-minute mile. Somebody very brain damaged or foreign or alien wrote this article here. Eliza adapts to the user's needs, the article says. Handling tasks like managing schedules. So I think it's funny that they included all of this stuff here after all of it's got a vagina, but don't stick your dick in it. And it's the sexiest big tit pouty lip thing you'll ever seen. You'll be more efficient. And then it says, it'll handle tasks like managing schedules, engaging on social media. So it'll run your Twitter account, automating research, processing documents, and executing blockchain transactions. Oh, so that's perfect. So for anybody who's ever, looked at their Bitcoin mining rig and said, if only I could screw it. The only thing missing about my Bitcoin mining rig is a vagina I can stick my penis into. Like, that's it. This is the product for you. The company then says that the hardware and software, this is a very, very confusing part. Let me show you guys. I don't want to get you guys all, hot and bothered by showing you that hot little productivity bottom screen there. Where are we? It is. Okay. Yeah, I can see how this can be very confusing for purchasers of this product. Okay, so where did that part go? All right. The hardware. I think you guys can see that. The company said the hardware and software are configured with safeguards, which make it difficult to use the robot for unintended purposes, such as being used for sexual activities. This is at the bottom of the article. Not the bottom, but this is at the, I think the comments. This is the bottom of the article. They throw the most sexualized vagina having bot at you, pouty lips, big tits, and all. And then they tell you at the end, we've got some safeguards in there so you can't rape it. No means no, okay? Well, all right. What does that mean? I think it's clearly designed to turn people on. It's nothing to do with productivity. And they're like, we put some safeguards in it so your little dick doesn't get start thinking that it can do things that it can't. For unintended purposes, such as sexual activities. That is crazy. Maybe all of this is made up. Maybe none of the people they have it quoted as though somebody actually said that from the company, but it's funny if they did. It's actually kind of a funny troll. Maybe it is. The whole thing is a troll. Like, can you imagine? It's like a disclaimer on the bottom of your mattress. Like, don't tear this tag off. Except you get sent this, you spend all this money on this robot. And then it comes there and you're like, oh yeah, productivity. I'm so productivity horny. And then there's like a little tag that says, not to be used for sex. And the guy's like, well, there's this vagina there. What about that vagina? They're like, well, it's a productivity bot. Would you be able to be productive with a person who didn't have the right anatomy? Like if you just knew a person that was like Ken and Barbie and had no anatomy, wouldn't you be thinking about that? Wouldn't you rather it have anatomy to be productive? Maybe that's the reasoning. And I wonder what they mean when they say that it makes it difficult for them to use it for unintended purposes. Is it like you have to court it? You have to win it over? Because nobody's taking this thing home to their mom looking like this. Put some clothes on, Missy. Or is it like a physical violent thing? Like if a guy who is just a little too eager about how efficient he's become, starts to stick his hand down where it shouldn't go, is it going to use its robot powers to break its hand off? I mean, this is detail. These are details they need to tell us. Or maybe it's like the Adam Sandler movie, Billy Madison, where the hot teacher, every time Adam Sandler's character gets a question right when he's being quizzed, it removes an article of clothing. Maybe that is the whole productivity premise. Maybe I've been looking at this thing all wrong. I would just like more details, is all I'm saying. I think they're going to need to include this. Especially when it comes to this final aspect of it. It's the weirdest story. So this company is, right, so I don't know if I quite understand how this works here. But this company puts the vagina in that's not intended to be the primary purpose of the buyer. But they sought bids, or they like put out a challenge to another company to help, I guess, improve the functioning of this vagina. And they got a company from Las Vegas, obviously, that, what is the name of this company? It's called Bry. It's called Bry AI. So this company is working with another company called Bry AI to improve upon their productivity bot. And Bry AI has technology that it's developing currently that is called Orifice. They have Orifice technology that this non-sexual bot company has partnered with. We need Orifice to improve our productivity bot. And Orifice has this technology, this Orifice technology, that has the ability to measure the velocity of the human owner's thrust into the robot vagina, as well as the depth that the robot vagina is being penetrated. That's who they're partnering with on this non-sexual productivity bot. It's very forward thinking, actually, because obviously they would never sell it to a degenerate who would use it for sex first. But as I mentioned, they understand the human condition. They understand how horny efficiency and getting stuff done can make people. And that on the, inevitable occurrences that so much has been gotten done in one's day that a man can't help but attempt to have sex with his productivity bot. They might as well have a vagina there that will, at least when he does it, measure the velocity of his thrust and the depths of his pumps. Because this thing is about efficiency and productivity through and through. If that's going to happen anyway, they might as well be able to measure it so they can improve upon it the next time it happens. It's quite frankly an impressive piece of technology. And you guys can get one on the waiting list for one for just over $420,000. I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, who has $420K to spend on this thing? Who could just, you could be throwing that money around on like a real girl, a real productivity partner. Maybe the people who would buy this are tired of the real productivity partners. Maybe they're done with it. I don't know. But also, if you have $420,000 that you can afford to throw away on a productivity partner such as this, it doesn't make sense, because you are clearly a very productive person who doesn't need the help of a sex bot to improve your efficiency and what you can accomplish, thus shattering the entire premise that this thing is not a sex bot. We have discovered you. Bad Christian, I want one of those. Yeah, me too, for a friend. Hello, JC, says Jack. You know what? One of the, I have this list of things. I don't have a list, but just I joke about it. Of things that if I just had unlimited amounts of money, like FU money, that I would do to my friends to put them in compromising situations just because it would be funny to me. And one of them has always been that for Christmas, I would send them as a gift, I would send them a sex bot like this. And I would try and choose when they had their big gathering at their house for it to happen. And the gift would show up there, and they'd be opening all the presents. Maybe I would take it over there myself and put it on their tree. And then they just open it up in front of it, and it's like a sex bot. It's not a very nice thing to do. I wouldn't do that to anybody that I would do that to a friend of me, I think. Not like a real friend. Definitely do that to Anthony Fauci. Oh, what was the Eagles thing? Somebody sent me that video. I haven't seen it yet. Is that how she spelled it? So was it the mayor of Philadelphia, Nate, or something like that, who was trying to spell Eagles and she spelled it ELGSES? Is that what happened? She needs a productivity bot. It's as simple as that. She needs help. Denver says 8-9-minute miles, dude. I was running faster at 8-9-minute miles. Me too. Yeah, it's like who writes this article? It's crazy. Yeah, the mayor of Philly spelling Eagles. That's funny. Well, she'll probably be the Democrats' candidate in 2028. Actually, wouldn't surprise me. You guys see that Kamala, they're trying to like throw this out that Kamala and Doug Emhoff are having problems, just like Obama and Big Mike, saying that Kamala's blaming Doug and stories about his past relationships on like he's why she lost, which is like typical Kamala, blaming the Jew. Now it's all over X that 52% of Philly adults are functionally illiterate. That's funny. So she's playing to her audience is what you're saying, Nate. So if she actually spelled it correctly, her audience might be like, that's not right. All right. Thanks for letting me play around, guys. Definitely did a lot of playing around. I'll probably be back later tonight, around 9, if I had to guess. Or tomorrow, if not tonight, but probably tonight around 9. But thank you guys for hanging out, chatting with me. Let me be a little bit retarded this morning. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. See y'all next time.